A few days ago, the 2025 Formula 1 season came to an end. The last one under this ground effect technical regulation, which will give way to a new regulation, both in terms of engines and in terms of the single-seaters. In 2005, we had very close battles, intense clashes, rivalries on the track, and especially duels between teammates. I've told you this every time we do this tradition. In Formula 1, your teammate is your main rival and the driver you're directly compared to. As always, in honor of the predictions video we made at the start of the season, it's time to analyze the teams, their pairs, work, performance, and results in 2025 to determine how each driver on the grid has performed and who have been the winners of the different teammate battles in Formula 1 in 2025. Just a reminder, as always, that this video will be divided into two parts. In this one, we'll talk about the teams that finished in the even positions of the Constructors' Championship, and in the other, those that finished in the odd positions as well. This year, we won't consider the sprint format except for each driver's points at the end. We won't count it for the different duels since the format can't be evaluated in the same way as a full race. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the video analysis of who beat their teammate in Formula 1 2025 Part 1. To begin with, in this video, we have to talk about the worst team of the 2025 Formula 1 season, and it's none other than Alpine. After a strong finish in 2024 and a solid preseason, the team was expected to contend for 5th in the Constructors' Championship. Instead, they were the slowest and worst car on the grid, scoring the fewest points all season. They also faced ongoing internal chaos with frequent changes and restructurings. In short, it was a tough year for Alpine, finishing as the last constructor team. They'll stop being a constructor and become a Mercedes customer team in 2025. Alpine used 3 drivers between the Australian and Miami Grand Prix this season. The pair was Jack Doohan and Pierre Gasly, and from Imola until the end of the season, it was Pierre Gasly and Franco Colapinto. Gasly led the team in 2025 and was essentially the only one scoring points, totaling 22. At the season's start, this team looked promising. But as the season progressed and they stopped developing this car to focus on 2026. While other teams advanced with upgrades, they got stuck by not updating their single-seater. And that made it increasingly difficult for the Frenchman to have a chance to score points. Even so, in the year's first races with Doohan as his teammate, he managed to score points in the Bahrain Grand Prix and in the sprint at the Miami Grand Prix, being able to take his car beyond where realistic possibilities allowed him. It was a strong performance by the Frenchman, who we know can deliver when conditions are right. He reached Q3 several times this season, even qualifying 5th in Bahrain. Overall, it was clear he could get more performance from the car when he still had some chance to compete in the midfield. Even when the car lost competitiveness within his group, Gasly still occasionally scored points. This includes the impressive 6th place in Great Britain and double points at the Brazilian Grand Prix. And his sprint? It was always clear that when he pushed the car to its limits, he could achieve what seemed impossible. Although the points didn't help Alpine much, they improved the perception of the French driver, who exceeded expectations, with an extremely difficult car to drive. Jack Doohan, however, had a very tough start. He was under pressure to perform from the start or risk being replaced by Franco Colapinto. During the first races of the season, he was always under threat of being replaced. And really, he was never able to shine in the same way that Gasly did. In his first 6 races, he had 2 major crashes, one on the first lap of the Australian Grand Prix at home and another serious crash, the free practice sessions of the Japanese Grand Prix, trying to test something he saw in the simulator, which led him to one of the worst crashes where he completely wrecked the car. Speaking of his pace, he was really never on par with what Gasly was doing. Some Grand Prix he matched his pace, while in others he was clearly off. Alpine was reportedly giving him until mid-season to adjust and show his full potential. But once he fell under the direction of Oliver Oakes, this protection ended. After the Miami Grand Prix, Franco Colapinto replaced him. But his time in Formula 1 really left few highlights, and we'll never know if, with more time in the car, things could have been better. To analyze this duel further, let's examine the direct statistics from the confrontation between these 2 Alpine team drivers. Gasly and Doohan shared the track in only 6 races this season. During those 6 races, Gasly's top finish was 7th in the Bahrain Grand Prix, while Doohan's was 10th, 3rd place in the Chinese Grand Prix. So this is a victory for the Frenchman. Gasly scored 7 points in 2 Grands Prix, while Doohan scored none. It's clear this category is another win for the French driver. In the direct qualifying duel, Gasly beat Dujan 5 times, compared to the only time Dujan managed to do it, and in the race it was more of the same. Gasly beat him 4 times. Although we won't count one because he was disqualified in the Chinese Grand Prix, while Dujan was only able to do it twice in those 6 races. Analyzing the data, it's clear Pierre Gasly wins in every aspect, which is unfortunate for Dujan. Despite a few brief flashes, they weren't enough for him to keep his seat in Formula 1, and to get rid of the shadow of the one who ended up replacing him starting from the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. It was Argentine driver Franco Colapinto who ultimately took the seat. It was practically written from the beginning of the season that it would be his at some point in the calendar. However, Franco's mission would not be easy. He would have to adapt to the worst car on the grid, with almost no time to get familiar, no preseason testing, and severe balance issues. By the time he took over the single-seater, by then, the other teams had already brought development packages that left Alpine far behind, clearly making it the worst team of the season. Honestly, Franco was initially uncomfortable with the car. The lack of mileage made adaptation very difficult for him, and for several races, he struggled to understand the car. Franco never hid it. He was always open about struggling to understand how the car worked. Though it took him time to adapt, he eventually kept up with Pierre Gasly and sometimes beat him. He had strong moments, such as nearly scoring at the Dutch Grand Prix. In fact, this didn't end up happening due to a serious communication error within the team, or also when he disobeyed the order given by his team in Austin. He overtook Pierre Gasly due to having much better pace. That's true. Adapting was tough for him, but his progress from season start to finish was clear. He had fewer accidents, gradually showed more speed, and in some races he was even able to be faster than Pierre Gasly. As a result, the team noticed his progress and renewed his contract for 2026, giving him his first full season, including preseason, in 3 years. And that obviously will make him better prepared to get the most out of his potential from the start of 2026. Having discussed this, let's examine the direct data from the duel between Colapinto and Pierre Gasly on the Alpine team. In those races, they competed in. Gasly obviously raced in all 24 races of the season. Colapinto participated in 18 Grand Prix, starting at Imola. Of their 18 shared races, Colapinto's best finish was 11th at the Dutch Grand Prix, while Gasly's was 6th at the British Grand Prix. In terms of points scored, Gasly takes the win with 15 points, which in the final tally add up to a total of 22 points, earning him 18th place in the drivers' standings. Franco Colapinto didn't score points and finishes 20th in the World Championship. Gasly outqualified Colapinto 13 times, while the Argentine managed it 5 times. And in the race, the battle was a bit closer, with 11 wins for Pierre Gasly compared to 7 for Franco Colapinto. With these numbers, it's clear that the winner of the French duels was Pierre Gasly. He knew how to use his experience to get the most out of his car, which was very difficult to handle. Colapinto stands out for his season-long progress, fewer mistakes, and overall development. This gave Pin the confidence to renew his contract. So Alpine ends this terrible season with the hope that things will be better looking ahead to 2026. He finished 8th in the Constructors' Championship this year, in a year where, although they didn't manage to match their best results in this table, they had a positive year, with ups and downs. Yes, and it's positive. The new Toyota collaboration is showing results. And this year we saw the duel between the experienced Esteban Ocon and the young talent Oliver Berman, and the result was quite interesting to analyze. Esteban Ocon joined the team after leaving Alpine last year. He was signed as the leader to use his experience and help the team grow. He achieved remarkable results, especially early in the season, highlighted by an excellent 5th place in the Chinese Grand Prix. But instead of the teammate battle being dominated by the French driver, was Oliver Berman really on his heels for all 24 races of the season? And towards the end of the season, when the latest updates arrived for the car, Ocon completely faded away. And from having the battle more or less under control, his pace dropped drastically and opened up the possibility for Oliver Berman to turn things around in the direct fight in the drivers' standings. At that moment, Esteban Ocon struggled with pace and couldn't maximize the car's potential, just as surprisingly Oliver Berman was doing. While he isn't a complete rookie, having made 4 appearances in the 2024 season, he still has far less experience than Esteban Ocon. And throughout the whole season, he was very consistent. He matched his teammates' pace, had excellent performances, and fulfilled the goal of scoring points whenever the opportunities arose. Once the latest car updates arrived, it was beating after beating from Oliver Berman Esteban Ocon, who scored much more often than his teammate and delivered excellent performances, like finishing 4th and nearly reaching the podium podium at the Mexican Grand Prix and taking 6th at the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Vital results that allowed him to turn around his situation in the drivers' standings. And with that, to beat Esteban Ocon and further convince Formula One of his talent. It was a strong year for the British driver, clearly showing why Ferrari holds him in such high regard. In the end, this close duel was decided in the final races. Both drivers and the team can be blamed for not taking advantage of their many chances to score more points, which might have improved their position in the constructors' standings. Still, I believe Haas has a strong foundation for 2016, especially with their extended partnership with Toyota. Having told you this, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to look at the direct analysis to see who won in the different duels within the American team's battle. Both drivers raced together in all 24 season events. Of the 24 races, Esteban Ocon's best finish was 5th in the Chinese Grand Prix and Berman's was 4th in the Mexican Grand Prix. So this is a point for the British driver. Berman wins again in points, scoring 41 for 13th place in the driver's standings, while Esteban Ocon's 38 points put him in 15th. In the qualifying duel, Oliver Berman beats Ocon with a 13-11, and in the race they end up tied, each beating the other 12 times. At the season's start, I predicted Berman was one of the few rookies who could outperform his experienced teammates. But given Ocon's character with teammates, he was bound to win. And it turned out to be a close victory for the British driver over the French driver. This guy showed his incredible adaptability and the speed he has because he managed to win by just 3 points against a tough competitor like Ocon. And it makes you think about how much this guy can grow with more experience and a lot more confidence in his team, driving. Racing Bulls finishes a strong year, securing 6th in the constructors' standings. Thanks to having a balanced car again, their drivers have consistently threatened to score points. Like Alpine, they had 2 driver lineups, experienced Yuki Tsunoda with rookie Isaac Hayar. Later, Liam Lawson joined after Red Bull swapped seats with a Japanese driver following 2 Grand Prix. What if we analyze the duels when the teammates are different? But considering that they only lasted 2 races, we'll completely skip the first battles. To analyze what happened directly between Hayar and Liam Lawson, on Hayar's side, he has had an absurdly incredible year. The comfort of driving a docile car like the Racing Bulls has allowed him to get the most out of his potential at all times. He was sometimes inconsistent, but also had long stretches of scoring points. He was very active all season, but stood out most in qualifying, where he was outstanding. He reached Q3 in final qualifying 13 times, showing his natural speed. That is, he managed to make it into that cut 54% of the times he qualified. Let's remember, this was during his rookie year with a low-tier team like Racing Bulls. No matter how you see it, it's an achievement that can't be downplayed. During one qualifying session, he placed 4th at the Dutch Grand Prix. With an error-free race and Lando Norris's did not finish, the Franco-Algerian secured his first Formula One podium. Remember, as a rookie driving a Visa Cash App? For me, he was clearly the rookie of the season because of his performances, more than his position in the standings. He surprised me in a good way, although I feel he still has some ups and downs that can obviously be corrected with much more experience. His speed, pace, and ability were on display throughout the year, and those results earned him a promotion to Red Bull, to the main team for the 2026 Formula One season. This is very different from Liam Lawson's situation, who began the season with Red Bull but was demoted after only 2 races. So Liam had an extremely difficult mission to overcome the psychological blow that his abrupt exit from the main team caused and to recover his level. To convince Red Bull to keep giving him a chance to continue in Formula One at least with the Racing Bulls team. His year was very inconsistent, especially early in the season. Once he understood the car and its changes, he became more comfortable and achieved better results to persuade Red Bull to keep him another season on the B team. However, Lawson is an extremely aggressive driver. This meant his races either went from bad to disastrous and lost all relevance, or he took risks. Truly great races that allowed him to achieve some very positive results in 2025. He was known as an all-or-nothing driver. His ultra-aggressive strategy sometimes paid off, like at the Brazilian Grand Prix, with the only pit stop that allowed him to achieve a great result at the end of the race, or the great qualifying session in Azerbaijan, which allowed him to secure the 5th place he achieved at the end of that Grand Prix. However, as I told you, he was very inconsistent. His aggressiveness led to many penalties and trouble, while Lawson often lagged behind Isaac Hajar's abilities. It's recognized how he overcame his slump after being dropped from Red Bull's main team. His regained speed has enabled him to stay in Formula One for another season. What if he doesn't improve his attitude on track or get smarter in battles? Sooner or later, there will be someone else behind him to take that spot at Biza Kashab. But anyway, it's time to review the direct data from this Racing Bulls team matchup to determine the winner of the Red Bull Racing Junior Team Duel. The two shared the track as teammates in 22 races during the year. Out of those 22 races, Hajar's best result was 3rd place achieved in the Netherlands, while Lawson's was 5th place obtained in Baku. So this ends up being a point for the Frenchman. Hajar managed to score 51 points, which earned him 12th place in the driver's standings, while Liam Lawson scored 38 and finished 15th. And in the qualifying duel, Hajar wins by a landslide, scoring a convincing 16-6, and in the race, it's another victory for Hajar. He beat him 14 times against the Formula team, the team that has won the most matches. With these numbers, it is confirmed that the winner of the Racing Bulls duel is Isaac Jaya, who for me was the Rookie of the Year. Lawson lost his seat by a wide margin, but his real win was recovering after his Red Bull dismissal, and he will have his second chance in the 2026 season. Now we just have to see if he can improve his performance and channel his aggressiveness on track, or if he remains the same. And what if Red Bull chooses not to keep him after 2027? Ladies and gentlemen, I think we can all agree the biggest disappointment of 2025 is Scuderia Ferrari from Italy. Well, coming from a year where they fought for the Constructors' title until the last race. When they were expected to contend for everything this year, did they actually end up contending for nothing in 2025? There were very high expectations around them with the car. With Lewis Hamilton's arrival and the title fight, the Italian team eventually said goodbye. With 0 victories throughout 2025 and 4th place in the Constructors' standings in, as I said, a completely disappointing year. The duo was Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, which many considered the strongest pair in Formula 1, which was ultimately pointless as the car was a disaster with poor balance, trouble maintaining ride height, and hard to set up. Anyway, it couldn't have been a sadder year for the Italian team, but now it's time to see how their drivers did throughout 2025. Leclerc stepped up as Ferrari's leader and consistently got the best results from the Scuderia Ferrari, 25. He showed consistency, at least when it came to scoring points, and he was able to get on the podium on a few occasions. However, when the car allowed, there wasn't much he could do behind the wheel. He still had opportunities to win at the Hungarian and Monaco Grand Prix, but it wasn't enough, and he was clearly the only driver who could fully utilize the car's potential. But even so, podiums were the most the Monegasque driver could hope for, achieving 7 throughout the season. He occasionally caused real trouble for the McLaren team. Personally, it was a great year, severely limited by the car's pace, which once again keeps him away from the possibility of fighting for a driver's title. But he is the least to blame for the Italian team's lack of results. Expectations were high for Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time world champion, but he hasn't met them. But this has been, without exaggeration, his worst season in the category. Initially, his China sprint win felt like a false awakening, but it never happened again. All season he only showed pace close to what we saw at the Shanghai Grand Prix. He couldn't adapt to the Scuderia Ferrari 25, which didn't suit his driving style. His biggest weaknesses showed up in qualifying, where in fact on several occasions he was unable to make it into the final qualifying session and several times was eliminated in the first round. It was his first Formula 1 season in 17 years without a podium finish. Hamilton never felt comfortable with the car, he was never able to adapt 100%, and along with that, the Scuderia Ferrari 25 was very complicated to understand. Hamilton faced issues every race. His top podium opportunity was at the British Grand Prix, but he finished 4th. But without a doubt, this is not the Hamilton we knew. This is a Hamilton who was completely broken. He was never able to connect with the car, and he ended up paying for it in every single race this season. The truth is, it was a very disappointing year for the British driver, made even worse by the bad car developed by the Italian team. Anyway, let's review the data one by one to see how this head-to-head duel ended in the Cavallino Rampante. They raced together in 24 events that season. The best result for Leclerc was 2 second places in the Mexican Grand Prix and the Monaco Grand Prix, while the best result for Lewis Hamilton was 4 fourth places in Imola, Austria, Great Britain and Austin. In terms of points scored, Leclerc takes a crushing victory, with 242 points that earn him 5th place in the driver's standings, compared to Hamilton's 156 points that put him in 6th place. Leclerc dominates qualifying 19-5 and wins the race 18-3, once again proving his superiority. Considering the double retirements in Brazil and the Netherlands, plus the double disqualification at the Chinese Grand Prix, the result is clear. A crushing victory for Charles Leclerc in Ferrari's worst season since 2021 and Lewis Hamilton's worst year ever in Formula One. Many are already looking to 2026 with rule changes, expecting Hamilton and Ferrari to regain their strength. If that doesn't happen, and the car remains disastrous under the new technical regulations, Ferrari will make major changes and no one's position will be safe. If 2026 is a total disaster, Mercedes finishes second in the 2025 Constructors' Championship, ending a ground effect era that never suited them and offered little to celebrate. They never built a solid, competitive car, and that runner-up spot feels more like a consolation for simply not giving up. This year, they took a risk with their drivers. On one hand, they kept the already experienced Grand Prix winner, George Russell, and on the other, they signed the young 18-year-old talent, Kimi Antonelli. It was a very risky move, as they brought a rookie straight into a top team like Mercedes. Russell became the German team's leader after Hamilton left. He had a year where, despite Mercedes' lack of competitiveness preventing any real goals, he was still one of the season's best drivers, showcasing everything we know about him. Incredible consistency, his explosive speed when the car allowed it. He was the only non-Red Bull or McLaren driver with 2 wins this season, one at the Canadian Grand Prix and the other at the Singapore Grand Prix. His pace was very strong throughout the year, even when the car became difficult due to changes in the suspension. His experience helped him handle the problem and maintain his strength, scoring in nearly every race except the Monaco Grand Prix, where a qualifying reliability issue affected him. He was fast, consistent, and when he had opportunities, he took advantage of them to achieve great results. Many people place Russell in the top 3 drivers of this season, with some even ranking him above the world champions. For his part, Antonelli had the tough task of making his debut with a top team and handling the pressure that comes with it. He had standout performances like pole position in the Miami Sprint and comebacks in the Australian, Las Vegas and Brazilian Grands Prix, but it was also marked by inconsistency and poor results. I was eliminated in qualifying before Q3 several times. He had typical rookie driver accidents, like the crash in qualifying at Monaco or at the start of the Austrian Grand Prix. And in general, the impression left by the young Italian is that he has the level and talent to be part of the team. He still needs to learn more to fully realize his potential consistently. What I can highlight is his end of the season, where he performed at a very high level from the Mexican Grand Prix to Las Vegas. He was better able to fight Russell and sometimes beat him convincingly. That's where his first victory against the British driver came, at the Mexican Grand Prix, then his incredible race during the entire Las Vegas Grand Prix weekend. Ultimately, he was even better than Russell at the Qatar Grand Prix. He had some great moments, but that doesn't erase his bad ones. He couldn't get a good feel for the car or understand it, so he didn't score points. In fact, during the entire European tour, he was only able to score 3 points, but even so, he didn't let himself be defeated. He got back up, and the end of his season better revealed the young Italian's true abilities. I'm sure that in 2026, we'll see a much better version, with more experience, more maturity, and more learning. Ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to directly analyzing the duel between the teammates. They both raced in all 24 events that season. Russell's top results were wins in Canada and Singapore, while Kimi's best was second at the Brazilian Grand Prix. Russell dominates in points with 319 securing 4th in the standings, while Antonelli's 150 points place him 7th. In qualifying, Russell dominates 21-3, and the race was similarly one-sided. Russell secured a dominant win with 21 victories compared to Kimi Antonelli's 3. Was this what was expected from the duel? An easy win for George Russell, but with an Antonelli that Toto. Wolff wanted him to learn from his mistakes and use that experience for the future. In the end, it happened, yes. We saw many very low moments from the young Italian, but also many moments of brilliance where you could say that Toto did well to bet on his talent. Russell did what was expected. He was consistent, strong, fast, and nearly won a few times. Antonelli, for his part, had some very good flashes, but in 2086 he needs to improve a lot on what he did this year. It turns out to be true that Mercedes is one of the possible favorites and contenders for the titles in the 2026 Formula One season. With this, we conclude the first part of the video. I promise it will be less than a week before we see the second part, covering the world champion team. And what about all those who finished in the odd positions of the constructors' standings? I'm Skyline Racing, and I'll see you in the second part of this video.